Jedním z nejznámějších příběhů o únosu mimozemšťany je případ Travise Waltona, k němuž došlo v roce 1975. Tento incident získal opravdu velkou pozornost a jakmile Travis vydal svůj příběh knižně, přidal se do hry i Hollywood. Filmová produkce se ale bohužel rozhodla mnoho věcí z původního příběhu pozměnit. Bylo to zřejmě ze dvou důvodů. Za prvé, samotný Travis si ne vše pamatoval a za druhé zde byl záměr zprostředkovat celý příběh s více emocemi, ale samozřejmě s těmi negativními. Ve výsledku se z hlavních scén na mimozemské lodi stal jen zcela smyšlen horor a bohužel tyto obrazy se mnohým lidem zaryly do podvědomí. Je sice pravdou, že Travis zažil opravdu velké trauma, jenže není možné se zaměřit jen na tohle, na to trauma, na ten strach. Buďme fair, věci jsou vždy složitější, než se na první pohled mohou zdát. A i samotný Travis Walton si toho je vědom.
That was the most terrifying experience of my life. But when I tell this story and try to relate to people, I'm trying to communicate what I experienced and how utterly traumatic that was and how it was so devastating. I was, on the verge of catatonic for weeks after it happened. But I don't want to relate this story in order to inspire fear, because I've had enough time to think about it that I think that it was unwarranted, that my reaction was just due to my ignorance of the situation. The fact that I was returned at all is pretty significant,
Yeah.
The idea that these beings are just kidnapping people willy-nilly and doing terrible things to them, I don't subscribe to that theory.
Věřte tomu nebo ne, většina mimozemských národů není dokonalá. Jsou to různé bytosti a občas i oni dělají chyby. Ta pravá přirozená podstata mimozemských druhů je opravdu podobná té naší. A o tom už jsem podrobněji hovořil ve videu s názvem Úvod k rozlišování mezihvězdných národů. Ale každopádně jsem chtěl připomenout, že zkratkovité úsudky tady prostě nefungují. Přeci jen témata okolo UFO patří snad k těm nejkomplexnějším. A tak vám dnes k zamyšlení prezentuji úplně nový pohled na tento případ. Co když to bylo vše jen jedno velké nedorozumění? Zaviněné jak ze strany Travise Waltona, jeho obrovskou zvědavostí a opravdu nešťastnou chybou mimozemšťanů Pontí.
Do you know of any of the well-known or infamous encounters that the Pontee have been involved with?
Yeah. Do you know the name Travis Walton?
Sure.
I know the Pontee side of the story.
Well, I'd love to hear it.
Well, there was a craft that was having all kinds of mechanical difficulties and problems. And they were trying like heck to figure out what was wrong and why it wasn't working right when Travis Walton's truck with all of his firefighting buddies came around the corner and stopped. Travis was the only one that got out.
Mm-hmm.
The system on the ship that was malfunctioning partially was the defense system, and the ship itself saw his approach and automatically went to defend the ship, even though that was not the Pontee's desire. They didn't want anything to happen to anybody on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Travis got knocked back, and his spinal column right up here was severed. Hit his head and broke his neck. The Pontee on the ship saw it and went, oh my God, what did we just do? In the meantime, the truck takes off like a bat out of hell. And all the firefighting buddies leave Travis lying there. The Pontee scoop him up and immediately hightail it back to the nearest high-tech medical facility and throw him into a state of consciousness where he's can be repaired. It's not just in this dimension, if I can phrase it that way. They put him into a multidimensional state so that they could repair the spinal column and reconnect all the nerves. He was in that state for a week. And when he woke up, they didn't know that he was going to come to on board in the medical facility when he did, because some of the Pontee came around the corner, saw him, freaked, and ran out of the room because he got all scared and defensive. Mm-hmm. All right, they sent in one of the healers, and you know what a screen memory is, where they can project an image? Mm-hmm. Well, they projected an image of somebody who looked like you and me. And that individual calmed Travis down. And they realized that he was standing up, walking and talking, and by God, he probably was good enough they could get him back. All right, and return him. Because it wasn't their intent to keep him. He was just there long enough to get repaired and then be dropped back off. Mm-hmm. They dropped him back off within, well, less than 10 miles from where he was taken, but I don't know the topography and exactly how close he was. And they dropped him back off without any clothing on because that was the state he woke up in, and they put him back down. And of course, when he dropped back off, he woke up on, I think, the middle of the road and was scared to death and naked and afraid kind of thing. Mm-hmm. He went to go find a way to contact his best friend, I think, and then they came to find him. When the Pontee fixed him, part and parcel of that process was to improve his immune system so that all of the repair that they did of the cervical vertebrae and the nerves wouldn't be rejected. Mm-hmm. To my understanding, that gave him permanent immunity. I don't think he's been sick a day since then.
I have heard that. He's aged very well too. Mm-hmm. So maybe there is something to that. Did you ever mention this to Travis?
I've never met him.
You haven't?
No. And in fact, Clifford Mahooty, our friend, was a good friend of his. Mm-hmm. And knows other people that were friends of Travis's. And I said to Clifford, how willing would he be to hear this side of the story? And he said, I'm not sure if he's ready for that yet. Yeah. Because he went through an awful lot of grief from the public, from friends, from family, and from the community for years. And the trauma that he went through as a result of all of this, he didn't ask to be hit by a ship that was malfunctioning in its defense system. He didn't ask for an injury to his cervical vertebrae. He didn't ask to get dropped off naked in the middle of a highway. And all of those things, every single one of them, you would remember for the rest of your life.
No, absolutely.
And when I said, Clifford, if you ever think he's ready, you let him know that we'd be happy to talk to him and tell him the Pontee side of the story. And so we just left it at that and never approached him because we didn't know him as well as Clifford did.
Yeah, and of course Clifford is no longer with us, so I don't,
Right.
we don't know if he's contacted us or not, contacted Travis or not.
Right.